The city gates were wide open, my horses' hooves pounded across the imperial road of the capital, the footsteps of 30,000 armored soldiers echoing behind me. 3 years at the border, the wind and sand had carved bloody cracks into my face, and fragments of northern DI arrows were still embedded in my armor. Tucked against my chest was the letter he had written with his own hand. When my wife returns victorious, your husband shall greet you in person at the city gates. But what did I see? My carriage, the one with the vermilion wheels and ornate canopy that came with my dowry, was parked just inside the gates. He was helping a woman down from it. She wore a gold-embroidered jacket the color of crabapple red, her delicate fingers resting in his palm, and her feet were stepping onto my footstool. He looked up, he saw me. For a split second, our eyes met. I watched his gaze slide over me like I was some irrelevant passerby, then he turned and steadily helped the woman down. The wind funneled into my collar, the old wounds from the border ached dully against my ribs. I reined in my horse. Behind me, my deputy commander Chen Du lowered his voice and asked, "General, what is it?" I didn't speak. I saw her, the woman who stepped down from my carriage, Princess Yong'an, Chu Linlang. I recognized her. 3 years ago, on the day I marched out, she was on the city wall seeing off Zhao Yang, clutching a handkerchief, crying like a rain-drenched pear blossom. Back then, I thought she was just Zhao Yang's young cousin, spoiled and clingy. 3 years, I guarded the northern border for 3 years. I blocked 17 attacks from the northern DI for him. I bore the empty title of Northern Pacifying General in his place. And he, in the capital, used my dowry carriage to pick up his beloved. Chen Du called out again, "General." My hands trembled as I gripped the reins. Not from cold, it was the weight I'd been suppressing for 3 years, surging up in this single moment. "Enter the city," I said. My horse moved forward. Iron hooves struck the blue stone slabs of the city gate, producing a dull, heavy sound. 30,000 soldiers followed behind me, the clatter of their armor like the northern wind in winter whining, pressing down. Zhao Yang walked toward me. He wore a crimson official robe, a jade belt around his waist. 3 years had passed, and he was much fairer than before. The harshness of the border was gone from his brows, replaced by the pampered ease of the capital. Behind him trailed a few attendants, and Chu Linlang's coachman was already moving my mounting stool away, replacing it with the footstool from the princess's manor. "My wife has returned." Zhao Yang stood before my horse, looking up at me with a perfectly practiced smile. 3 years of hardship. "Your husband has prepared a welcome banquet." He said it smoothly, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. I looked down at him. He wasn't even wearing armor. His fingers were clean, like they'd never held a blade. But who was it that knelt before His Majesty and begged to marry me? Who said, "Your servant wishes to marry the legitimate daughter of the Northern Pacifying Marquis and guard the border for your Majesty"? Who, on our wedding night, red-eyed, whispered, "Zhaoning, I'll guard the border for you. You wait for me in the capital." And what happened? I went in his place. "My wife," Zhao Yang called again, a hint of impatience creeping into his voice. I didn't dismount. I turned my head and looked at the carriage. Chu Linlang was already standing beside it, supported by her maid, dabbing at the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. She looked up at me, her gaze carrying both grievance and triumph. "Husband," I said, my voice low but loud enough for everyone around to hear. "My dowry carriage, why is someone else sitting in it?" The smile on Zhao Yang's face froze. Bystanders had started to stop and stare. Some recognized me, whispering among themselves. My soldiers had halted too. 30,000 eyes watched this scene unfold. Zhao Yang lowered his voice. "Zhaoning, Linlang wasn't feeling well. I was just giving her a ride out of convenience. Get down first. Don't make a scene at the city gates." "Make a scene?" I let out a laugh. For the first time in 3 years, I realized laughing was harder than crying. I guarded the border for my husband for 3 years. The first thing I see when I return to the capital is my husband helping someone else out of my carriage. "And you call this making a scene?" Chu Linlang suddenly stepped forward, eyes red, and bowed to me. "Sister-in-law, please don't misunderstand. It was my fault for being presumptuous. My carriage broke down on the way to the temple, and my cousin was just..." As she spoke, tears fell, big, heavy drops. As if she had suffered the greatest injustice, the crowd began to murmur, "The princess is pitiful, being humiliated like this in public. The northern pacifying general is being too harsh. She did guard the border for 3 years. After all, 3 years at the border. I was wounded 17 times. The worst was when an arrowhead lodged in my ribs. The army surgeon pulled it out while I bit through my teeth. I killed the northern DI commander, burned their grain stores, pushed the border 300 li north. But in these people's eyes, I was just a jealous woman, bullying a fragile princess at the city gates." Zhao Yang's face darkened. "Shen Zhaoning, enough," he called me by my full name suddenly. I felt that these 3 years had been nothing but a joke. It was the same in my past life. In my past life, I endured the city's mockery as I entered the gate, endured the household's disdain for 3 years as a general's wife, and endured until the end. When he wrote the letter of divorce, Chu Linlang stood by his side, her belly swollen, and he didn't even glance at me. He said, "You were just a tool to guard my city for me. Now that the tool is useless, do you still want to hold on to the position of the legitimate wife?" That letter of divorce was written on paper from my dowry. Everything from my past life surged back like a tide. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, the string in my heart snapped. I turned my horse around. General Chengdu was stunned. I didn't look at him, didn't look at Zhao Yang, and didn't look at Chu Linlang, who was still crying. I spurred my horse and galloped toward the palace. Behind me came Zhao Yang's shout. "Shen Zhaoning, where are you going?" I didn't look back. The hooves struck the bluestone slabs like war drums. My cloak was blown back by the wind, flapping loudly. I was going to the palace. Everyone had forgotten that I wasn't just the general of the northern pacification, I was also Shen Zhaoning. The daughter of the Shen family had never relied on a man to survive. In my past life, I guarded the border for my husband, guarded it until I had nothing left. In this life, I wouldn't guard it anymore. Those old wounds from the battlefield, that loyalty that had been betrayed, those grievances that had been suppressed for 3 years, it was time to settle them. One by one, the palace's meridian gate loomed heavily in the twilight, the shadows cast by the tall vermilion walls like a silent judgment. When I rode to the palace gate, the guard commander of the Forbidden Army, Zhu Chong, was leading a shift change. He saw me, froze for a moment, and his expression shifted from surprise to complexity. "General Shen," Zhu Chong cupped his hands. Why are you entering the palace at this hour?" I dismounted, the old wound on my leg making me stumble, but I steadied myself. "I need to see His Majesty. His Majesty is reviewing memorials in the Hall of Supreme Harmony today. I'll go announce." "No need to announce." I looked into his eyes. "Are you going to stop me?" Zhu Chong was silent. He knew who I was, knew I had just returned from the border, knew I was still wearing blood-stained armor, knew there were 30,000 soldiers behind me. He also knew that the general of the Northern Pacification Seal, personally bestowed by the late emperor, was something I had won back from the battlefield myself. He stepped aside and made way. I walked straight in. The palace corridor was long, with palace lanterns just lit on both sides. The dim yellow light reflected off my armor, casting a long shadow. Some palace maids saw me and fell to their knees, too afraid to lift their heads. I walked too fast, and the old wound under my ribs began to ache again, but I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I was afraid I'd recall the scene at the city gate, Zhao Yang's gaze, Chu Linlang's tears, the letter of divorce from my past life. I didn't want to remember anymore. I just wanted to move forward. The doors of the Hall of Supreme Harmony were open, and the hall was brightly lit. Before I even reached the entrance, I heard the voices of several ministers inside. "Your Majesty, the northern border has just been stabilized. Now is the perfect time for rest and recovery. The Northern DI have submitted a state letter, willing to send envoys to sue for peace. Vice Minister Zhao submitted a memorial the day before yesterday, advocating for peace talks with the Northern DI. When I heard the words Vice Minister Zhao, my steps faltered. Zhao Yang. He was advocating for peace talks in the court. I had fought for 3 years, lost 3,000 soldiers, and driven the Northern DI back to the grasslands, and he, sitting in the warm mansion in the capital, was writing memorials for peace. I took a deep breath and stepped into the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Everyone in the hall turned to look at me for a moment. The hall was so quiet it felt empty. The emperor sat behind the imperial desk, a trace of fatigue on his young face. When he saw me, the vermilion brush in his hand stopped mid-air. I knelt, the armor colliding with the ground in a dull thud. Your subject, Shen Zhaoning, General of the Northern Pacification. Kowtows to your majesty. My voice echoed in the vast hall. The emperor set down his brush. Rise and speak. I didn't move. Your majesty, your subject has something to say. Speak. I lifted my head and looked at the young emperor. Your subject guarded the border for her husband for 3 years. Today, upon returning to the capital, she saw Vice Minister Zhao using her dowry carriage to personally help the Princess of Yong'an alight. Your subject asks your majesty, did the 30,000 soldiers under her command, who guarded the border for 3 years and lost 3,000 lives, only earn Vice Minister Zhao's words of peace talks? The hall fell into a dead silence. I could feel the ministers exchanging glances, some shifting their feet uneasily. The emperor didn't speak. He stared at me for a long time. General Shen, you just said Zhao Yang used your carriage to help the Princess of Yong'an alight. Yes, at the city gate. Yes, in front of 30,000 soldiers. Yes. The emperor set down his vermilion brush and slowly leaned back into his chair. His fingers tapped lightly on the desk, once, twice, as if counting something. In your past life, did you also experience the same thing? I lifted my head and met the emperor's eyes in that moment. The blood in my veins froze solid. He knew, he actually knew. Your servant, I know. The emperor's voice was low, but every word landed like a hammer in the hall. I've read all your frontier military reports. You fought for 3 years, and in those 3 years, Zhao Yang never sent you a single letter. For 3 years, the Princess of Yong'an came and went from the Zhao residence as if it were her own home. I've been waiting for you to return. Waiting for what? I asked. Waiting for you to walk in here yourself, just like today. The emperor said, if you had endured it, you wouldn't be Shen Zhaoning. If you hadn't endured it, only then could I help you. My heart tightened. Your majesty, I'll handle Zhao Yang's matter, the emperor said, raising a hand to cut me off. But don't expect me to give you justice immediately. The Zhao family has served as officials for 3 generations. Their connections in the court are deeply intertwined. The Princess of Yong'an is the daughter of the Grand Princess. So I can't punish her arbitrarily either. I knew, of course, I knew in my past life. It was because I knew all this that I endured. I endured until there was nothing left. Your servant does not seek justice, I said. The emperor frowned. Then what do you want? I lifted my head and met his eyes. Your servant wants an imperial decree. What decree? Divorce. I slowly let the word slip out. Your servant wants to return to the Shen family. My dowry, my military merits, my title, I want to take them all back. The hall fell silent again. The ministers exchanged glances, and someone whispered my name in a low voice. General Shen, you, Zhaoning, the emperor, suddenly called me by my name, his voice carrying a hint of an unreadable smile. Are you afraid? Afraid of what? Afraid that after returning to the Shen family, people will call you a discarded woman? I laughed. 3 years on the frontier, I'd seen everything. What was there to fear? Your Majesty, I said. Your servant has already died once. This was about my past life. But no one understood except the emperor. His fingers stopped, and his gaze suddenly turned deep. Good, he said, I'll give you the decree. The vermilion brush on the imperial desk was picked up again, its tip landing on the bright yellow silk. The scratching sound was like the winter wind in the northern border. Half an hour later, I walked out of the Taihe Hall clutching the imperial decree. The palace lanterns stretched my shadow long. I took a few steps, then suddenly stopped. I saw Zhao Yang. He stood on the palace path, his face ashen, his servant behind him. That vermilion-wheeled, canopied carriage was parked not far away at the side gate. Shen Zhaoning. His voice was cold as a blade. What did you come to the palace for? I slowly unfurled the decree. Zhao Yang, I said, I guarded the frontier for you for 3 years, and today you helped the princess down from my carriage. Guess what I came to the palace for? His face changed. You, divorce. I held the decree up to him. This decree reads, grant the divorce of General of the Northern Frontier Shen Zhaoning and Vice Minister Zhao Yang, Each shall return to their own clan, and the dowry shall be fully returned." His pupils contracted sharply. "You're crazy," he hissed. "You're a woman, where can you go after a divorce? Back to the Shen family. How will your father treat you? How I fare is none of Vice Minister Zhao's concern." I rolled the decree back up. "Tomorrow morning, I'll go to the Zhao residence to inventory my dowry. Vice Minister Zhao, you'd better have everything that should be returned ready." With that, I turned and walked toward the palace gates. Behind me came Zhao Yang's long-suppressed roar, "Shen Zhaoning, you'll regret this." I smiled and didn't look back. Regret in my past life, enduring for 3 years, that was true regret in this life. The one who should regret isn't me. The gates of the Shen residence were tightly shut. I stood before them, the bronze knocker gleaming dully in the twilight. This street was so familiar. I'd run down it countless times as a child, chasing my brother's kites, stepping on fallen petals on the bluestone slabs. But standing here now, it felt foreign, too long away. I suppose 3 years guarding the border, 1 year preparing for marriage, for years without returning. The old locust tree in front of the gate had grown much taller, its branches reaching over the wall, rustling in the evening breeze. I raised my hand and knocked the bronze ring. The dull sound echoing through the alley. Footsteps came from inside, and someone cracked the door open, poking out half a head. "Who is it?" General, old Liu." The gatekeeper widened his eyes, nearly dropping his lantern. He rubbed his eyes hard, then looked at the personal guards behind me, stammering, General, it's the eldest young lady. The eldest young lady is back." The door was yanked open, and old Liu stumbled out, his voice twisted with joy. "Miss, you're back. Why didn't you send word ahead so I could greet you at the gate?" "Is father here?" I asked. Yes, he is. The master's in the back courtyard study," old Liu called out as he turned and shouted inside, "Quick, go tell the master the eldest miss is back." The Shen residence was just as I remembered, blue bricks and grey tiles, pomegranate trees planted in the courtyard, blooming just in time, a blaze of red. I passed through the hanging flower gate, walked along the covered corridor, and the maids and old servants who saw me froze. Some scrambled to bow, others turned and ran, probably to spread the word. I smiled, didn't stop, and headed straight for the study in my past life. The day I returned to the capital, I went to the Zhao residence first. I swallowed my humiliation, walked through the city under the whispers of the common folk, stepped into the Zhao family home, lowered myself to pay respects to Zhao Yang's mother, and listened to her veiled barbs. "In the 3 years you were at the border, the princess consort often came to keep this old woman company." That day, I also sent word back to the Shen residence. Later, I learned father had prepared a meal and waited the entire night, but I never came back because the next morning, the letter of divorce was placed in my hands. "Eldest miss." A familiar voice made me stop. I turned and saw a middle-aged woman rushing toward me, her silver hairpin askew. Not even bothering to fix it, she ran up to me, panting, and stopped, her eyes instantly reddening. "Nanny-san," I called out. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tears fell first. Nanny-san was my wet nurse, who raised me from childhood. The year I married, she begged to follow me to the Zhao residence, but I refused. I didn't want the Shen family's old servants to suffer there. "Eldest miss," Nanny-san finally spoke, her voice trembling. "You've lost weight, you're darker, and that scar on your face." She reached out to touch my cheek, then pulled back, afraid of hurting me. "It's nothing, just a graze from an arrow in the northern border." I took her hand. "Nanny, where's father?" "In the study, talking with your eldest brother," Nanny-san said, wiping her tears. "I'll announce you." "No need," I said, "I'll go myself." The study door was ajar, light spilling out. I walked to the door and heard voices inside. It was my eldest brother, Shen Jiawen. "Uncle's point is that since sister is back, she should return to the Zhao residence first, to avoid gossip. He also said that a married woman's duty." Enough. That voice made my heart clench. It was Father Shen Huaiqian. His voice sounded much older, different from what I remembered, but I recalled clearly the day I returned to the mansion seeking help in my past life. It was this voice that said to me, "Now that you're married, you're a Zhao woman, as your father, I can't help you." "Father, My brother continued, "Uncle's words may be harsh, but they're not entirely unreasonable. Sister hasn't been home in 3 years, now that she's back, she should at least. She has her own plans. Father cut him off, she fought for 3 years, she knows how to live better than either of us." The room fell silent. I stood outside the door, suddenly afraid to push it open. What was this place like the day I returned in my past life? I remember father seemed thinner, his hair grayer. He sat in his chair, listened to me, was silent for a long time, and finally said only those few words. But back then, I blamed him. I thought he wouldn't help me because he didn't love me. Later, I learned from others that after I was divorced, father went that very night to knock on the censorate's door, begging them to speak for his daughter. In the heavy snow, he knelt for 3 hours outside the gate until the censor-in-chief finally cracked the door open and said, "Your daughter's matter is the emperor's will." Father fell ill after returning. That illness dragged on for 3 years, and he never recovered. When I left, it was the 3rd year of his sickness. He lay in bed, holding my hand, asking, "Zhao, do you hate your father?" I said, "No." He smiled, a bitter smile. He said, "But I hate myself." Those old memories flooded back, drenching me in ice. I took a deep breath, raised my hand, and pushed the door open. Both people inside looked at me at once. My eldest brother, Shen Jiawen, sat by the tea table, holding a scroll of documents. He froze when he saw me. Father sat behind the desk, a brush in his hand, writing something. He looked up, saw me, and the brush stopped, ink bleeding into a blot on the paper. "Father," I walked in and knelt on one knee. "Your daughter is home." Before the words had even faded, I heard a sharp crack. The brush in father's hand fell onto the paper. He stood up slowly. He rose to his feet, looking at me, his lips trembling. "You're back." "I'm back." "Were you wronged?" The question was asked so softly, as if afraid to shatter something. I looked up at him. He had aged 3 years. Half his hair had turned white, the wrinkles on his face had deepened, and his eyes had sunken in. He wore an old blue robe, patched at the shoulder, a dignified third-rank protector of the army, yet at home he dressed like a poor scholar. "Father," I said, "your daughter was not wronged." His gaze fell on the scar across my face, then on my armor, and finally on the imperial decree tucked behind my back. He saw that strip of bright yellow, a third-rank military officer. He knew exactly what that meant. "You went to the palace." His voice suddenly changed. "Yes." "You saw His Majesty." "Yes." Father's hands clenched, his knuckles turning white. He stared at the decree, as if wanting to say something, then swallowed it back. He turned to my eldest brother and said, "Jiao Wen, leave us." "Father, leave." My eldest brother stood up, glanced at me, his eyes complicated. He walked to the door, then suddenly turned back, lowering his voice to say, "Sister, if anything happens, tell me." I nodded. The door closed. Only the two of us, father and daughter, remained in the study. "Speak," father said as he sat back down, his voice heavy. "What did you ask for in the palace?" I sat across from him and placed the decree on the table. An imperial decree of divorce. Each returns to their own clan. Dowry and military merits, all returned in full. Father's pupils contracted sharply. "Divorce?" "Yes. Have you thought this through?" His voice suddenly turned stern. "Divorce is no joke. Do you know what people outside will say? A general who guarded the border for 3 years, divorces on her first day back in the capital. Your daughter knows." I said. "Then why, Father," I interrupted him, "I endured 3 years." He froze. 3 years, I said, looking into his eyes. "When he married me, he said we'd respect each other like honored guests. But less than 3 months into the marriage, he stopped coming home. When the border was under siege, he personally saw me off to war, saying he'd submit a memorial to the court requesting reinforcements. But I waited 3 months in the northern frontier, and no reinforcements ever came. I fought for 3 years. 3,000 brothers died before my eyes, and I didn't even have time to bury them. But in the capital, he used my carriage to help another woman alight, at the city gate, in front of 30,000 people. Father, this isn't about endurance, it's that I've already died once." I didn't mention my past life, but he heard the finality in my voice. He was silent for a long time, so long I thought he wouldn't speak again. "Zhao," he finally said, his voice deep. Do you know why the Zhao family married you? I looked up at him. Back then, your mother begged His Majesty for that marriage decree in front of you. The Zhao family had no choice but to marry you, father said, exhaustion lacing his voice. But what your mother didn't know was that the Zhao family's true choice was never you. It was the Yong'an commandery princess. I nodded. I knew in my past life. I only learned this right before I died. That maid who always smiled at me, in the final moment, told me that Zhao Yang and Chu Linlang had grown up together. It was just that the Grand Princess thought the Zhao family's status too low to marry her daughter off, and the Shen family had risen through military merit. The Zhao family needed a military ally, so Zhao Yang married me, but in his heart, there was never any room for me. Your daughter knows everything, I said. You know everything, yet you still married him. Mother begged for the decree. Your daughter couldn't refuse, I said, my voice calm. But now, your daughter will no longer let others push her around. Father looked at me, his eyes complicated. He suddenly laughed, a tired laugh. You are much stronger than your mother. I didn't know how to respond to that. My mother was a gentle woman, living her whole life for others, for father, for me, for the Shen family's dignity. Even as she lay on her sickbed, she worried whether I'd be wronged in the Zhao family, but she never lived to see me married. She passed away the year I turned 17. Father, I said, your daughter came back today to tell you one thing. What is it? From now on, your daughter will never let anyone bully her again. Father looked at me, silent for a long time, and finally nodded. Then let it be so. He stood up, walked behind the desk, opened a small wooden box, and took out a set of keys, handing them to me. This is your mother's dowry list, along with what she left for you. Before she passed, she told me these are for you alone, not for anyone else. I took the keys, my fingers trembling slightly, and, father paused. About what you just said, Zhao Yang and the princess, what do you plan to do? Daughter has her own plans. You're not afraid. Afraid of what? The Zhao family has served as officials for 3 generations. Their connections in the court are deeply rooted. Princess Yong'an is the daughter of the Grand Princess, the Emperor's most beloved niece. Offend these 2 families, and from now on in the capital, father, I said, I guarded the northern border for 3 years, killed DI tribesmen, drank horseblood, and lay on a snowy mountain for 3 days and nights waiting for reinforcements. Am I afraid of the storms in the capital? Father looked at me and smiled again. Good, he said, then go ahead and do it. I stood up, bowed to him, and turned to leave. Zhaoning, I stopped. Your mother back then. Father's voice was soft, as if coming from far away. She begged the emperor for the marriage decree because she wanted you to live well. She didn't know about the Zhao family's affairs. She truly believed Zhao Yang was worthy of you. I didn't turn around, I know, so don't blame your mother. I tightened my grip on the keys, my knuckles turning white. I don't blame her. With that, I pushed open the door and strode out in the courtyard. The pomegranate flowers were in full bloom the next morning. Before the sky was fully light, I woke up. I was sleeping in the old boudoir of the Shen family, the furnishings exactly as they were before I married, the bronze mirror by the bed, the wooden comb on the shelf, and on the windowsill, the old inkstone I used for practicing calligraphy. Nothing had changed, only the person had. I sat up, the old wound under my ribs aching faintly. Last night, when I took off my armor, Nurse Sun saw the scars on my body and cried all night. I called for water to wash my face, changed into casual clothes, and fastened my saber. Today, I was going to the Zhao residence, my dowry, my military achievements, my belongings. One by one, I would take them all back, from the Shen residence to the Zhao residence. It was 3 streets away. I didn't take a sedan chair. I brought a squad of personal guards and rode on horseback. The morning streets were sparsely populated, with only a few early vendors setting up their stalls. When they saw me on horseback, followed by armored soldiers, they all cowered to the roadside. A bun seller recognized me and whispered to the person next to him, "That's the female general from the Shen family, the one at the city gate yesterday." I didn't need to hear to know what they were saying. The horses' hooves clattered over the bluestone slabs, the sound crisp. I rode at a steady pace, the footsteps behind me as rhythmic as drumbeats. The Zhao residence's main gate was closed. The stone lions in front were still as imposing as ever, crouching there majestically. Above the gate hung a plaque with the words Zhao Residence in black lacquer on gold. I dismounted, walked up the steps, and raised my hand to knock. The bronze knocker rang 3 times, and someone inside responded, "Who is it?" "Zhenbei General Shen Zhaoning, here to retrieve my dowry." There was a moment of silence inside, then the door was pulled open. It was old Hu, the Zhao family's steward. When he saw me, his face changed colors several times before he forced out an awkward smile. Young madam, is Minister Zhao in?" He is. Old Hu bowed and scraped. "Young madam, what is this?" I said. "I'm here to retrieve my dowry." I had no time for his nonsense. "Call Zhao Yang out, or let me in, your choice." Old Hu's face turned even paler. He glanced back inside, then turned to me with a fawning smile. "Young madam, please come in first. I'll go report immediately." I stepped inside. The Zhao residence was just as I remembered: deep courtyards, lush gardens, and hanging cages on the veranda with a few talking minor birds. When I came here after my wedding, I found everything elegant. Only later did I realize that beneath that elegance lay nothing but scheming. Old Hu led me to the main hall, served tea, and then hurried off to the back courtyard. I didn't sit down, nor did I touch the tea. I stood in the hall, surveying the room where I had lived for less than 3 months. The paintings on the wall were still the same ones. The vase on the table was the pair I had chosen back then. But none of this mattered to me anymore. I heard footsteps, not just one person. When Zhao Yang walked in, she was behind him, Princess Yong'an, Chu Linlang. She wore a gown of moon-white silk, a jade hairpin tucked into her hair, her face plain and clean, but her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she had been crying. When she saw me, she paused in her step, then lowered her eyes and curtsied. "General Shen." "Princess," I returned the greeting, my tone flat. Zhao Yang stood in the hall, his face dark. He wore a deep blue brocade robe, a piece of mutton fat white jade hanging from his belt, looking all elegant and refined. "What are you doing here at this hour?" His tone was impatient. "To collect my dowry," I said. "You saw the imperial decree yesterday. Today, I'm here to take inventory." "Imperial decree?" Chu Linlang raised her head to look at Zhao Yang. "Zhao Lang, what imperial decree?" Zhao Yang didn't answer immediately, but a flush of embarrassment crept onto his face. "The decree of divorce," I said, not waiting for him to speak. "His Majesty has granted my divorce from Vice Minister Zhao. My dowry is to be returned to me." Chu Linlang's face went pale as death. She looked at Zhao Yang, her voice trembling. "Zhao Lang, is this true?" "Linlang, listen to me." Zhao Yang reached out to grab her. Chu Linlang stepped back, avoiding his hand, staring at him. "You promised me. You said you would talk to General Shen. You promised." "I did promise." "Then why didn't you deal with it sooner? Why wait until she came with the decree?" I couldn't watch anymore. These two stood before me, putting on this tragic love scene right in front of my face. "Both of you," I cut in, "save your talk for after I'm gone. Today, I'm here to take inventory of my dowry." I pulled out the dowry list and unfolded it. It was covered in writing, detailing everything my mother had left me: 3 estates, 5 shops, 36 chests of gold and silver jewelry, some paintings and calligraphy, and 10,000 taels of silver. Zhao Yang's face darkened further. "Shen Zhaoning, do you have to be so ruthless?" "Ruthless?" I looked at him. "Vice Minister Zhao, when you helped the princess into my carriage, you didn't think it was ruthless then?" His face flushed red and white. "If you're willing to settle this peacefully." "Those things," I laughed. "Those things were my mother's dowry. Your Zhao family didn't contribute a single coin. Why should I leave them with you?" "You, Vice Minister Zhao." I dropped the smile, my voice turning cold. "In 3 years on the northern frontier, I never used a single tael of your Zhao family's silver. My military achievements were earned with my life. The divorce decree was written by His Majesty himself. If you have any objections, you're welcome to go to the palace and ask." Zhao Yang stared at me, his fists clenching and unclenching, clenching and unclenching again. Chu Linlang stood to the side, her face ashen, looking from Zhao Yang to me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. In my past life, I hated this woman to the bone, but now, watching her stand here, beside Zhao Yang, I suddenly felt she was just a pitiful soul. She adored Zhao Yang. But Zhao Yang married me. She waited for him for 3 years, only to receive news of a divorce. And Zhao Yang, from start to finish, he never truly gave anything for anyone. All he wanted was the Shen family's military power and a connection to the princess's mansion. But I didn't pity her. Hearts are made of flesh. She was pitiful. Wasn't I wrong too? Old Hu, I called for the steward. Have the men bring everything on the dowry list to the front courtyard. I'll check it piece by piece. Old Hu glanced at Zhao Yang, then at me, and finally lowered his head. Yes, the Zhao family's servants began moving things, gold and silver jewelry, silk and satin, paintings and porcelain. One by one, they were carried into the yard. I stood under the eaves, checking each item. 1 set of 100 Suns pattern vases, 1 purple sandalwood inlaid jade screen, 6 Nanmu chests. With every item I called out, Zhao Yang's face grew a shade paler. Chu Linlang stood to the side, head down, silent. The moving took over half an hour. Finally, everything was accounted for. 1 item is missing, I said. Zhao Yang frowned. What's missing? The set of sapphire headdress my mother left me, the one with 7 pigeon blood rubies. Zhao Yang froze, then looked at Chu Linlang. Chu Linlang's face changed. That headdress. Zhao Yang hesitated. Linlang, didn't you wear it yesterday? Chu Linlang bit her lip, saying nothing. I looked at her, and everything clicked. That sapphire headdress was the most valuable piece in my mother's dowry. When she was alive, she said it was passed down from my grandmother, and one day, it would be passed down to me, princess. I said, that set of head ornaments is my mother's heirloom. Chu Linlang looked up, tears glistening in her eyes, but she did not flinch. General Shen, she said, I had those head ornaments sent back to your residence yesterday. I was planning to have them delivered to you today, sent back to my residence. I chuckled. Which residence? Chu Linlang froze. Princess, I said, you probably don't know yet. I got divorced yesterday. Starting today, I'm moving back to the Shen mansion. Chu Linlang stared at me, her lips parting slightly, before finally lowering her head. I'll have them sent to the Shen mansion. Much obliged, princess. The atmosphere turned icy. Zhao Yang suddenly spoke up. Linlang, you should head back first. I'll handle things here. Chu Linlang looked up at Zhao Yang, her eyes rimmed red, as if she had 1,000 words to say, but in the end, she just nodded and turned to leave. As she passed by me, she paused and whispered, General Shen, I'm sorry, I didn't answer. She left, leaving just Zhao Yang and me in the hall of the Zhao mansion. He looked at me, his eyes holding something I couldn't quite read. Shen Zhaoning, he said suddenly. Do you hate me? I looked at him, thinking for a moment. Zhao Yang, do you know what the coldest moment was during my 3 years guarding the northern frontier? He said nothing. It was when the snow sealed the mountain pass. It snowed for 3 days and 3 nights, burying my entire camp. When I dug my way out with my men, my blood had frozen solid. At that moment, I thought, if only someone would come to save me. But no one came. I lay in the snow for an hour, and finally crawled out. On my own, I looked at him and smiled. So, do you think I hate you? Zhao Yang's face turned pale. Those things have nothing to do with me. Right, nothing to do with you, I said. So you don't need to be afraid. I won't hate you, and I won't seek revenge. From now on, the Zhao family's affairs have nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with me. Shen Zhaoning. With that, I turned and walked out of the main hall. In the courtyard, my dowry was piled up, covering half the yard. Men, I ordered my personal guards behind me, carry all of this back to the Shen mansion. I looked at the gates of the Zhao mansion, and a lightness settled in my heart. The shackles of my past life had finally, completely, fallen away. I swung onto my horse and never looked back. Chapter 5, The Shen Mansion. Hooves clattered over the blue stone slabs of Chang'an Street. Behind me, my personal guards carried dozens of chests, marching in a grand procession through the market. Onlookers by the roadside stopped to stare, their whispers surging like a tide. Isn't that General Shen? I heard she got divorced. The imperial decree has already been issued. TSK, TSK. She guarded the border for 3 years, and when she came back, her man was gone, haven't you heard, the day she returned to the capital. Vice Minister Zhao was helping Princess Yong'an down from her carriage. I rode forward, my expression unchanged in my past life. These words had stabbed into my heart like knives in this life. They were nothing but wind, gone as soon as they passed. The Shun mansion sat on Locust Tree Lane in the eastern part of Chang'an City, my father's old home. After my father died in battle, my mother and I lived here until she passed away from illness, until I married Zhao Yang 3 years. I looked up at the plaque above the Shun mansion's gate. The gold lettering was already faded and worn, the stone lions at the entrance were tilting, and the vermilion paint on the doors had peeled off in patches, revealing the greyish-white wood beneath. Old steward Shen Fu stood waiting at the gate. When he saw me, tears streamed down his face. Miss, he still used the title from before I was married. I dismounted and walked over to him. Uncle Fu, I'm back. Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Shen Fu wiped his tears with his sleeve. I've had the main hall cleaned out for you. All your things are inside. Thank you, Uncle Fu. I glanced back at the procession behind me and ordered my guards. Carry everything into the back courtyard. Don't open the chests yet, wait for me to inventory them. Yes, General. Just as I was about to step through the gate, the sound of urgent hoofbeats came from the corner of the street. I turned to see a fast horse galloping toward me. On it sat a young man in a crimson official's robe, his face handsome and his eyes carrying a hint of a smile. General Shen. General Shen. I recognized him. Du Ruoqing, a secretary in the Ministry of Revenue, my fellow examination graduate. Du Ruoqing dismounted in a hurry, strode quickly to my side, and looked me up and down, his eyes full of surprise. You really got divorced? Yeah, the imperial decree has been issued. Yeah, is Zhao Yang that bastard's face green with rage? Du Ruoqing burst into laughter, a hearty sound that startled the sparrows on the roadside trees into flight. Good, 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 he said 3 goods in a row. I knew you wouldn't swallow that insult. You're Shen Zhaoning, the Grand General of the Northern Frontier. How could you take that kind of humiliation lying down? I watched him laugh, and a lightness settled in my heart. Why are you here? I heard you were going to the Zhao residence for a divorce today, so I took half a day off to come watch the show. Du Ruoqing didn't hide it. Too bad I was late and missed the fun, but I heard you got your dowry back, so at least there's some drama left. You're well informed, of course. Du Ruoqing lowered his voice. You don't know, the whole court's buzzing. Some are backing you up, some say you're ungrateful, and a few are even planning to impeach you. Impeach me? Impeach you for being jealous, unvirtuous, and failing to uphold wifely duties. Du Ruoqing curled his lip. Guess whose idea it was? Left Censor-in-Chief, Minister Feng. Du Ruoqing gave a thumbs up. Smart. I let out a cold laugh. Left Censor-in-Chief Feng Zheng was Zhao Yang's mentor, in my past life, after I swallowed my pride and entered that household. Feng had impeached me in court for violating propriety and disgracing the family name. It was only thanks to the Emperor's clear judgment that I wasn't sent home to reflect this time. I didn't give him that chance. Let him impeach me, I said. Shen Zhaoning, walk straight and sit tall. I'm not afraid of being impeached, that's what I said. Du Ruoqing pulled an envelope from his sleeve and handed it to me. Oh, by the way, someone asked me to give this to you. I took the envelope, opened it, and saw it was a transfer order from the Ministry of Revenue. It ordered General Shen Zhaoning of the Northern Frontier to assume the post of Right Vice Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, effective immediately. I froze. This is, the Emperor personally approved it. Du Ruoqing lowered his voice. When you went to the palace to request the divorce, His Majesty had already drafted this decree and asked me to deliver it to you today. I stared at the order, a strange, indescribable feeling welling up inside me. His Majesty, he knew that after I returned to the capital, I had no allies in the court. He knew the Zhao family would try to crush me, and he knew that as a woman who had spent 3 years in the military, if I didn't land a stable post, I'd eventually be pushed out of the court. Right Vice Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, a 4th-rank position overseeing the nation's grain, taxes, and finances, a real cushy job. By giving me this post, the Emperor was backing me up. Start tomorrow? I asked. No rush, the day after is fine too. Du Ruoqing said. I'll give you 3 days off to get your household settled. Then thanks, Minister Du. Hey, don't call me Minister Du, call me Du Ruoqing. He waved a hand. We're from the same examination cohort, no need for that formality. I nodded and thanked him again. Du Ruoqing looked at me and suddenly sighed. Zhaoning, these 3 years in the northern frontier have been hard on you. I smiled. It was hard, but it's all in the past. That bastard Zhao Yang doesn't deserve you, Du Ruoqing said. You deserve better. I didn't say anything better. I don't need it anymore in this life. I'm not planning to marry again. Du Ruoqing chatted a bit more, then took his leave. I turned and walked into the Shun residence. Shun Fu followed behind me, chattering on about what had happened at the estate over the past 3 years. I've had the warm room next to the main hall cleaned out for you to use as a study. The lotus pond in the back courtyard has been fixed up too this summer. The flowers are sure to bloom beautifully. I listened to him, looking at the familiar courtyard, and felt a sense of grounding. This is my home, the place where my father and mother raised me. I'm back after settling the dowry. Shun Fu brought me a bowl of hot kanji. Miss, have something to settle your stomach first. Dinner will be ready soon. I looked at the bowl of white kanji, with a few red dates floating on the surface. Steam rising gently. I picked up the bowl and took a spoonful. It tasted like Mom's cooking. Mom always liked to add a few red dates to her kanji. My eyes suddenly stung. Uncle Fu, I'm here. These years. Thank you for your hard work. Shun Fu's eyes reddened too. He lowered his head, his voice a little choked. Miss, what are you saying? I've guarded the Shun estate my whole life. This is my home. I hummed in response and went back to drinking the kanji. After a couple of sips, I asked, has anyone been tending to my mother's grave? Yes, I go every month. I've invited monks from the temple to perform rites. I'll go see her tomorrow. I'll go with you, miss. Just then, a commotion erupted outside. General, my personal guard, Ju Hu, came running in, drenched in sweat. General, someone from the Zhao residence is here. I set down my bowl. They say they've come to deliver something. Ju Hu's expression was odd. Brought a chest of jewelry, claiming you left it behind. My heart stirred. It was that set of sapphire headpieces. Let them in. A moment later, old Wu, the steward of the Zhao residence, led 2 servants carrying a rosewood chest into the main hall. Old Wu bowed respectfully. General Shun, the princess consort ordered me to deliver this. Open it and let me see. Old Wu lifted the lid. Inside, neatly arranged, was that set of sapphire headpieces. 7 pigeon blood rubies were set into pure gold hairpins and ornaments, each the size of a thumb, pure in color and shimmering with brilliance. These were the heirlooms my mother left me. I reached out and picked up a hairpin, my fingertips gently stroking the gem's surface, a pang of bitterness rising in my heart. Go back and tell the princess consort, I said, that I've received the items. Thank her. Yes. Old Wu nodded repeatedly. Then I'll take my leave. Wait. Old Wu stopped in his tracks. Zhao Yang, did he have anything to say? Old Wu hesitated, then lowered his head. Master Zhao said he's hosting a banquet at Drunken Immortal Tower tomorrow and wishes to invite the general. He has something to discuss. I'm busy. Just tell him that. Old Wu dared not say more and retreated with the servants. I stared at the headpieces for a long time before placing the hairpin back in the chest. Uncle Fu, lock this set in the storeroom. Keep it safe. Yes, miss. As night deepened, I lay in bed, staring at the canopy. Moonlight seeped through the window screen, spreading a layer of silver across the floor. I couldn't sleep. My mind was full of my past life. At this time in my past life, I was in the backyard of the Zhao residence, tormented by Zhao Yang's cold stares and Chu Linlong's smiles. I remember that day when he helped her down from the carriage. The whole city was laughing at me. I stood by the side, like an extra ornament. I remember her smile. She hooked her arm through Zhao Yang's, lifting her chin slightly, like a proud peacock. I remember his words. He said, Linlang and I share a mutual affection. Mutual affection? What about me? Then what was I? I guarded the border for him for 3 years. I took a blade for him from the northern DI people. I earned military merits with my life only to get a mutual affection in return in my past life. I endured it. I endured for 3 years. Endured until he married her. Endured until her child was born. Endured until I died in that deep, secluded mansion in this life. I won't endure any more. I sat up, threw on a robe, and walked to the window under the moonlight. The backyard of the Shun residence was silent, with only the Osmanthus tree swaying gently in the night breeze. Mother loved Osmanthus the most when she was alive. Every autumn, she would pick the flowers to make Osmanthus cakes. Father would always say with a smile, "Your mother's skill is better than the imperial kitchen chef's." I'll never taste those Osmanthus cakes. From that year again. As I was lost in thought, I suddenly heard a frantic knocking at the front gate. "Open up, hurry." It was Juhu's voice, frowning. I quickly walked to the front yard. Juhu stood at the gate, panting heavily. "General, something terrible has happened." "What is it?" "The Zhao residence. The Zhao residence is on fire." My heart sank. "What?" "The main courtyard of the Zhao residence caught fire, burning down half the yard," Juhu said urgently. "They say the princess consort is trapped in the flames, and Master Zhao rushed in to save her. No one knows if he's alive or dead." I stood there, a storm of emotions churning inside me. A fire? How could there be a fire in my past life? The Zhao residence never caught fire. Why had it changed in this life? Had my visit today to demand a divorce altered something? Without time to think further, I mounted my horse and led my personal guards charging toward the Zhao residence. The hoofbeats pounded sharply against the bluestone road, the night wind whistling past my ears. Having lived 2 lives, for the first time, I felt that something was different. The hoofbeats were especially piercing in the silent night sky. I leaned over my horse's back, the night wind scraping past my ears, making my robe snap loudly. Juhu followed behind me, the rest of the guards riding closely. "General, the Zhao residence is on Vermilion Bird Street, 3 streets away from here," Juhu shouted into the wind. I said nothing, just squeezed my horse's flanks and sped up. When I left the capital 3 years ago, the plane trees on Vermilion Bird Street had just been planted. Now they were as thick as 2 men could wrap their arms around. The shops along the street were all closed, with only a few lanterns swaying in the wind. As I rounded the last corner, I saw the flames. The Zhao residence was located in the middle section of Vermilion Bird Avenue, a sprawling 5-courtyard mansion bestowed upon the Zhao family by the late emperor. At this moment, thick smoke billowed from the estate, flames illuminating half the sky. Officers from the capital prefecture were already fighting the fire, water from dragon carts spraying toward the blaze, but the inferno was too fierce to contain. I reined in my horse and swung off its back. "General," Juhu dismounted as well. "Be careful." I ignored him and strode toward the Zhao mansion's main gate. The entrance was packed, Zhao household maids and servants, neighbors who'd rushed over upon hearing the news, and capital prefecture officers. "Move, all of you, move." I shoved through the crowd and squeezed my way to the gate. A minor capital prefecture clerk blocked me. "Hey, who are you? It's dangerous here, you can't go in." I shot him a cold glance. "Shen Zhaoning." The clerk froze for a moment, then his face changed. General Shen." I didn't bother with him anymore and stepped straight through the gate. The Zhao mansion's front courtyard was already in shambles. The main courtyard was the worst hit, flames licking out of windows, beams crackling as they burned. A memory from my past life flashed through my mind. In my past life, the Zhao estate had never caught fire, never. Why had it changed in this life? "Where is Lord Zhao?" I grabbed a servant boy who was running out, startled. He stammered. Lord Zhao charged into the main courtyard to save the commandery princess. He hasn't come out yet." My heart sank. He charged in. Did he truly care for her? Or was it just out of duty? No. What was I thinking? He and I had already divorced. Who he was with had nothing to do with me. I released the servant's collar and strode quickly toward the main courtyard. "General," Juhu caught up. "Where are you going?" "To save someone." "But the fire's too strong." "Shut up," I said. "Wait here. If I'm not out in the time it takes to burn 1 incense stick, lead the men in, General." I didn't look back at him and charged straight into the main courtyard. The fire was fiercer than I'd imagined. Half the main courtyard's gate had already collapsed, piled with charred timber. Heat blasted my face, searing my skin. I drew the dagger at my waist, hacked through the obstructing wood, and squeezed inside. The main courtyard was unrecognizable. The carved wooden windows along the corridor had all burned to ash. leaving only blackened pillars still aflame. I squinted, searching for Zhao Yang through the thick smoke. Zhao Yang. No answer, only the crackling of flames and the rumble of collapsing beams. I pressed on, choking on the acrid smoke. The main hall had burned down to its skeleton, most of the roof caved in, flames leaped from the rubble, waves of heat rolling over me. Suddenly, I heard a faint cough. It came from the side chamber to the right of the main hall. I hurried over. The door was warped from the heat. I kicked it open, and the panel crashed to the ground. Inside, Zhao Yang was huddled in a corner, holding the commandery princess. His back was scorched black, his robe full of burned holes, half his hair was singed off, his face smeared with soot. The princess lay unconscious in his arms, her dress also tattered and burned. Zhao Yang. I crouched down. Are you still alive? He looked up, startled to see me. Zhaoning. Save the chatter, come with me now. He coughed twice, his voice hoarse. Linlang. She's injured, I can't carry her. I glanced down at the princess. A deep gash on her calf was bleeding profusely. You support her, I'll clear the way, I said, raising my hand to chop through a broken beam blocking our path. Zhao Yang gritted his teeth, helped the princess to her feet, and staggered after me. Just as we stepped out of the side chamber, the last beam of the roof crashed down, landing right in front of us. The fire raged on, tongues of flame surging from all directions. The heat was so intense I could barely keep my eyes open. Zhaoning, go first. Zhao Yang shouted from behind. Don't worry about us. I ignored him, wiped the sweat from my face, and scanned the surroundings. A corridor to the left led to a back gate. Follow me. I grabbed Zhao Yang's arm and ran left. The corridor's pillars were already on fire, embers raining down from above, blistering my arms. I gritted my teeth and charged forward regardless. Finally, I kicked open the back gate and dragged Zhao Yang and the princess out of the inferno. Behind the back door was a small alley, already crowded with people. As soon as they saw us come out, they gasped and swarmed around. Lord Zhao is out. Hurry, hurry, bring water, call the doctor, quick. Call the doctor. The moment Zhao Yang came out, he collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. The commandery princess was placed on the ground beside him. Still unconscious, I stood to the side, watching them, and a strange feeling welled up inside me. In my past life, I had never seen Zhao Yang so disheveled. He was always so lofty, so composed, as if everything in the world was under his control. But now, his body was charred black, his hair a mess, and he sat on the ground panting, looking as ragged as a beggar fleeing a disaster. Are you okay? I asked. He looked up at me, his eyes complicated. I'm fine, he said. Why did you come? Ju told me the Zhao residence was on fire. I said, I came to take a look, to see how big the fire was, and whether it could burn the whole Zhao residence clean. I said flatly. He froze for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. You really don't hold back at all. I didn't say anything. A maidservant brought over a bowl of water. I took it and handed it to Zhao Yang. He took it, drank a couple of sips, then looked up at me. Zhaoning, thank you. No need, I said. I didn't come to save you. Then you came to. I came to see if the heavens had avenged me. Zhao Yang. He didn't say anything else, just looked down at the unconscious commandery princess, his eyes full of worry. How is Linlang's injury? He asked the maidservant beside him. The maidservant stammered, are returning to you, my lord. The princess's calf was hit by a wooden beam. She's lost a lot of blood. Someone has already gone to fetch the doctor. Zhao Yang hummed in acknowledgement, then gently stroked the princess's forehead. I watched his movements, and suddenly found it a little amusing. In my past life, he had never treated me like this. Even when I took a blade for him against the northern Di people and lay in his arms, he had never been this gentle. You two really have a good relationship, I said, risking your life for each other. Zhao Yang looked up at me, opened his mouth, as if to say something, but in the end, said nothing. I didn't look at him again. I turned and walked toward the mouth of the alley. Zhaoning, he called from behind me. I stopped. Thank you for today, he said, and, I'm sorry, I didn't turn around. You don't need to apologize, I said. Between us, there's nothing left to owe. With that, I strode out of the alley. The night wind hit me at the alley's mouth, carrying a chill. I let out a breath and looked up at the sky. There were no stars. Tonight, only a waning moon hanging in the treetops, its light dim, as if devoured by the flames. Juhu ran over, looking me up and down. General, are you all right? I'm fine. Your hand. I looked down. The sleeve of my left hand was burned off at the cuff, and several blisters had risen on my arm. Some spots already broken. I shook my hand. Minor injury, nothing serious. General, why did you go in to save them? Juhu asked, puzzled. Didn't you already divorce Lord Zhao? Divorcing him doesn't mean I want to watch him burn to death, I said. Besides, I went in to save a person, not Zhao Yang. Juhu scratched his head. This old servant doesn't understand. You don't need to, I said, swinging onto my horse. Let's go. Heading back. Yes. By the time we returned to the Shen residence, the sky was already turning a pale fishbelly white. Shen Fu stood at the gate, anxiously looking around. When he saw me come back, he hurried over. Miss, you're finally back. This old servant heard the Zhao residence was on fire, and that you rushed in again. I was so worried. I'm fine, Uncle Fu. I interrupted him. Just a few blisters on my arm. Go find me some burn ointment. Yes, yes, this old servant will go right away. Shen Fu trotted off to the pharmacy. I walked into the main hall and plopped down into a chair. Juhu brought over a bowl of tea. I took it and drank a mouthful. The scalding tea went down my throat, clearing my head a little. General, this is a bit suspicious, Juhu said. What's suspicious? The timing of the fire at the Zhao residence, Juhu said. Today, right after you finalized the divorce, the Zhao residence caught fire, and the fire was so big it doesn't seem like an ordinary accident. I set down the teacup and looked at him. You're saying someone set it deliberately? This old servant wouldn't dare jump to conclusions, but it just seems too coincidental. I was silent for a moment, a torrent of thoughts churning inside me. In my past life, the Zhao residence had never caught fire. In this life, the moment I stepped out of that marriage, the Zhao residence went up in flames. Was someone really setting fires on purpose? Who was it? Who were they trying to burn to death? Zhao Yang, or the commandery princess, or maybe me? I remembered a line Du Ruoqing had said when he came by today. His Majesty said he would take care of it for you. His Majesty would take care of it for me. Could this fire have been set by His Majesty's men? Impossible. His Majesty might have some regard for me, but he wouldn't burn down the Zhao residence just because of me. That was too reckless, too childish. If it wasn't His Majesty, then who? General, Juhu's voice cut through my thoughts. The physician is here. Let him take a look at your injury. I only then noticed that Shen Fu had led a white-bearded physician to stand at the doorway. Miss, let the physician apply some medicine. I nodded and extended my left hand. The physician took one look and frowned. This is a serious wound. General, why didn't you treat it sooner? Busy, I said simply. The physician shook his head, took out a jar of ointment from his medical case, and carefully applied it to my wound. The cool ointment soothed the burning pain, easing it considerably. General, apply this ointment 3 times a day. The swelling should subside in 3 days, the physician said. Don't let it get wet these few days, or it might scar. Understood, thank you. Physician. Shen Fu saw the physician out. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes, having not slept all night, and then charging into the fire. I was now so exhausted I didn't even want to move a finger. Juhu, your old servant is here. Go and investigate. When the Zhao residence caught fire, were there any suspicious people lurking nearby? Yes, and, I opened my eyes, look into Chu Linlang. Juhu was taken aback. Investigate the commandery princess. Yes, I said, I want to know everything she's done in the capital these past 3 years, who she's seen, and anything out of the ordinary. General, are you suspecting? I'm not suspecting her, I said. I just want to figure out what's different in this life. Juhu nodded and turned to leave. I sat alone in the main hall, outside the window. It was already fully bright. Sunlight streamed through the carved window lattice, casting dappled shadows on the floor. I stared at those shadows, and a sudden thought surfaced in my mind. The result of not sleeping all night was that when I woke up the next day, my head felt as heavy as lead. I opened my eyes and realized I had somehow fallen asleep slumped in the chair, with a cloak draped over me. Uncle Fu. No one answered. I sat up, rubbing my sore neck, and noticed the cloak was navy blue. It wasn't mine. I froze for a moment, picked up the cloak, and smelled a faint scent of pine wood on it. This was a man's clothing. Wait, how did a man's clothes end up in my residence? Miss, you're awake. Shen Fu walked in carrying a bowl of porridge. Your old servant saw you were asleep, so I didn't disturb you. I draped a piece of clothing over you. Whose clothes are these? Oh, they're Lord Du's, Shen Fu said with a smile. Lord Du came by early this morning. He saw you were asleep, so he didn't disturb you. He draped his own cloak over you and told me not to wake you. Du Ruoqing, what was he here for? Did he say anything? Lord Du said that after thinking it over last night, he realized you've just returned to the capital and are short-handed. So he sent a few people for you. They're waiting outside the door right now. Sending people. My heart stirred. I got up and walked to the door. Sure enough, 5 young men stood outside the gate, all with straight, imposing postures. They were clearly trained fighters. Du Ruoqing stood at the front. When he saw me, he smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. Zhaoning, you're awake. What is Lord Du doing? I pointed at the 5 men. These are some good hands I picked from the capital garrison. Du Ruoqing said, you've just returned to the capital. You need capable people around you. Zhao Yang may be gone, but who knows what trouble he left behind. Consider these men a small token of my regard. A wave of warmth washed over me. In my past life, Du Ruoqing wasn't my man. He was Third Prince's man. Later, when the Third Prince failed in his bid for the throne, Du Ruoqing was demoted along with him. But in this life, he was actively trying to get close to me, even sending me people. What did this mean? It meant that in this life, many things were different. Lord Du, this is too generous. What's there to be embarrassed about? Du Ruoqing said, we're in the same department, and you're the general of the Northern Pacification. I've been in the court for years. I might not be good at much, but sending a few people is something I can handle. I hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. Then thank you, Lord Du. Hey, I told you to call me Du Ruoqing. He waved his hand. When you call me Lord Du, I feel like I'm talking to my father. I smiled. All right, then thank you, Du Ruoqing. He nodded with satisfaction, then lowered his voice. By the way, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? The cause of the fire at the Zhao residence, the capital prefecture has found out. My heart tightened. What did they say? They say it was a kitchen fire, Du Ruoqing said. The wind was strong last night, and someone in the kitchen forgot to extinguish the fire. It spread to the wood shed, then the wind carried it to the main courtyard. That's it, Du Ruoqing said. The capital prefecture has already investigated. There's no trace of arson. I didn't say anything. If it really was a kitchen fire, why did the Zhao residence never catch fire in my past life? But now it suddenly did. Don't overthink it, Du Ruoqing said. Maybe it was just an accident. Maybe, I said. How is the princess? The princess injured her calf, the doctor says. She'll recover in a few months, Du Ruoqing said. Zhao Yang is fine, just choked on some smoke. He'll be back to normal after a few days of rest. That's good. Why do you look not too happy? I snapped back to reality and smiled. No, I was just thinking about something else. Du Ruoqing glanced at me but didn't press further. He changed the subject. By the way, how's your injury? I heard you rushed into the fire yesterday too. Got a few blisters on your hands. Minor injury, nothing serious. That's good, Du Ruoqing said. If you need anything, just send someone to find me. All right. Du Ruoqing left with his men, and I stood at the door, looking at the 5 newcomers. What are your names? I asked, reporting to the general. This humble one is called Zhao Da. This humble one is Chen Er. This humble one is Sun San. This humble one is Li Sai. This humble one is Ju Wu. These names were way too half-assed. Who's the leader? Zhao Da stepped forward. Reporting to the general, this humble one is, what did you do in the capital garrison before? This humble one was a squad leader in the capital garrison, specializing in patrols and assassination-related tasks. I nodded and asked, are you all from the capital garrison? Yes, Zhao Da said. Lord Du said that the general just returned to the capital and lacks people by her side. He specially picked us, some of the best hands, to serve the general. Are you willing to follow me? Willing. The 5 said in unison. I looked at them and made a decision in my mind. All right, from today on, You're my personal guards, I said. Ju-hu, take them to get familiar with the estate and arrange their quarters. Yes, General, Ju-hu acknowledged and led the 5 men away. I turned and walked back to the main hall, where Shen-fu had already set the kanji on the table. Miss, have something to eat. All right. I sat down at the table, picked up the bowl, and took a sip. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Uncle Fu, is it still possible to visit my mother's grave today? It is, Shen-fu said. I've already prepared the incense and paper money. Once you finish breakfast, we'll go. All right. I quickly downed a few sips of kanji, changed into a simple outfit, and followed Shen-fu out. My mother's grave was at the Shen family cemetery west of the city, about an hour's journey from the Shen residence. The carriage swayed along the official road. I leaned against the wall, watching the scenery outside the window. 3 years I had been away from the capital for 3 full years. The capital hadn't changed much. The streets were still the same streets, the shops still the same shops, but I was no longer the person I was 3 years ago. Miss, we're here. I snapped back to reality, lifted the carriage curtain, and saw a modest grave. 2 cypress trees stood in front of the grave, planted by my father with his own hands. Some weeds had grown on the grave mound, but Shen-fu had already cleared them. The tombstone was polished clean. I jumped off the carriage, walked to the grave, and knelt down. Mother, I'm back. My voice was a little choked. Shen-fu set out the incense and paper money, lit a stick of incense, and handed it to me. I took it, bowed 3 times respectfully, and placed the incense in the burner. Mother, I haven't been home all these years, and I've put you through so much, I said. From now on, I'll be in the capital, and I'll come see you every month. The paper money burned to ash in the brazier, the embers scattering in the wind. I sat before the grave, leaning against the headstone, just like when I was a child. Mother, did you know, yesterday, I divorced Zhao Yang, I said. Don't worry, it was my idea. He didn't dare refuse. In this life, I won't be as foolish as before, I said. I'm going to live well for you, and for myself. Mother, if you're watching from above, bless your daughter. A gentle breeze passed by, and the cypress branches swayed softly, as if responding to my words. I closed my eyes, and tears slipped from the corners. It's been 3 years since Mother passed, but I still feel like she's right here with me. Shen-fu stood not far away, silent, just watching me. Miss, it's about time, we should head back, he said softly. After a long moment I nodded, stood up, and brushed the dirt off my skirt. Let's go. Once in the carriage, I leaned against the wall, feeling a bit more grounded. By the time I returned to the Shun residence, it was already noon. As soon as I stepped through the gate, Ju-hu ran over, his expression odd. General, Chu Linlang is here. I froze for a moment. Who? Chu Linlang, Ju-hu said. That princess, what does she want? She says she has something to tell you. I frowned and walked into the main hall. Sure enough, Chu Linlang was sitting on a chair, her leg wrapped in bandages, with 2 maids standing beside her. When she saw me enter, she stood up and bowed. General Shun, Your Highness honors us with your presence. I apologize for not welcoming you properly, I said flatly. May I ask what brings you here? Chu Linlang looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. General Shun, I came to thank you. Thank me for saving Yangji yesterday, she said. If it weren't for you, Yangji might have. I didn't save him, I interrupted. I saved a person, not Zhao Yang. Chu Linlang paused, lowering her head. Regardless, General Shun, I will always remember your life-saving grace. No need, I said. If you're only here to thank me, then please leave. I've received your gratitude, General Shun. Wait, Chu Linlang said. I have more to say. What is it? Chu Linlang bit her lip, as if summoning great resolve. General Shun, I'm returning to the southern frontier tomorrow. My heart stirred. Returning to the southern frontier? Yes, Chu Linlang said. My father wrote to me, saying my mother is unwell, and I need to go back to tend to her. So you won't be in the capital anymore? No, Chu Linlang said. General Shun, after I leave, please take care of Yang Ji. He and I are already divorced, I said. I am no longer his wife, but Yang Ji still has you in his heart, Chu Linlang said. I know he's kind to me out of pity. The one he truly loves is you. I looked at her, a wave of absurdity washing over me. In my past life, She wasn't like this. Back then, she strutted into the Zhao residence, arm in arm with Zhao Yang, like a proud peacock. But in this life, why had she changed? Your Highness, I said, I don't care what's between you and Zhao Yang, nor whether he has feelings for me. None of that concerns me anymore. I've divorced him. Zhao Yang's affairs have nothing to do with me. Chu Linlang looked at me, her eyes growing redder. General Shen, please leave. Your Highness, I interrupted. I still have official business to attend to. I won't see you out. Chu Linlang opened her mouth, but in the end, said nothing. She stood up and limped out. I sat in the chair, watching her retreating figure, a thought suddenly forming in my mind. In this life, so many things had changed. Zhao Yang had changed, Chu Linlang had changed, Du Ruoqing had changed too. I didn't know what these changes would bring, but I knew one thing: I was no longer the Shen Zhaoning of my past life, someone to be trampled on. I was general of the northern frontier, Shen Zhaoning. I had guarded the border, killed enemies, and died once before. In this life, I wouldn't let anyone bully me again, and I wouldn't let anyone else decide my fate. After Chu Linlang left, the main hall fell silent. I sat in the chair, my fingertips lightly tapping the armrest, mulling over her words. She said Zhao Yang still had me in his heart, that she was returning to the southern frontier, that I should take care of him. Take care of him in my past life. I guarded the border for him for 3 years. When I returned, he gave me a city full of ridicule and a letter of divorce. Now that I've been reborn, I've cut ties with him completely. Bridge is bridge, road is road, and I've done my part. Whether Zhao Yang lives or dies, whether he's glorious or destitute, has nothing to do with me, Shen Zhaoning, anymore. Miss, Shen Fu said, carrying a cup of hot tea over and setting it beside my hand. Don't take that princess's words to heart. I picked up the teacup, took a sip, and let the bitter aroma dissolve on my tongue. I looked up at Shen Fu. The white hairs at his temples were more numerous than in my memory, and the wrinkles on his face had deepened. In my past life, I died without knowing why, and Uncle Fu was left alone in the Shen residence, enduring who knows how much hardship. Uncle Fu, I'm not taking it to heart. I set down the teacup and smiled faintly. I just find it strange. Chu Linlang wasn't like this in my past life. In this life, it's as if she's become a completely different person. Shen Fu was silent for a moment, then lowered his voice. Miss, this old servant dares to say one thing. Don't you feel that some things in the capital have changed too quickly? My heart stirred. You're right, I nodded. The Zhao residence fire, Chu Linlang's transformation, Du Ruoqing sending people, none of these things happened in my past life. In my past life, the Zhao residence never caught fire. After Chu Linlang returned from the southern frontier, she stayed in the capital until the day I died, never leaving. And Du Ruoqing, she was just an insignificant distant cousin by Zhao Yang's side, timid and cowardly, barely daring to speak above a whisper, let alone send 5 personal guards to me. Uncle Fu, keep an eye on those 5 people for me, I said, especially who they associate with and what they say. Write it all down. This old servant understands. Shen Fu replied. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the wutong tree in the courtyard. An autumn wind suddenly rose, sending golden leaves spiraling down, carpeting the ground. The sky over the capital was about to change. By the way, Uncle Fu, how is the investigation I asked you to conduct going? Shen Fu stepped closer and lowered his voice. This old servant found a few former servants from the Shen residence and gathered some information. On the night of the Zhao residence fire, someone saw a shadowy figure slip out through the back door. The figure was small and thin, not like one of the household staff, a shadowy figure. Yes, Shen Fu said, and the night watchwoman in the kitchen that night said she smelled tung oil. But when the capital prefecture's people investigated the next day, they claimed they found nothing. Tung oil. My brow furrowed. Tung oil is excellent for starting fires. If someone deliberately set the blaze, using tung oil would be perfectly normal, I said. The capital prefecture's people couldn't have missed that smell unless someone deliberately covered it up. Shen Fu finished. I let out a cold laugh. In my past life, I believed the capital prefecture was fair and just, believed Zhao Yang was devoted to me, and what was the result? I ended up dead. The city fell. In this life, I will never trust anyone's surface appearances again. Uncle Fu, keep investigating, find out who that shadowy figure is, and look into who pulled strings behind the scenes at the capital prefecture. Yes, miss. After Shun Fu withdrew, I stood alone by the window, my thoughts churning. If the Zhao residence fire was truly arson, who was the arsonist? Who had Zhao Yang offended, or was someone trying to use this fire to burn away some secret? I carefully recalled everything about Zhao Yang from my past life, only to realize how little I truly knew about him in my past life. After marrying into the Zhao residence, I spent my days managing household affairs, serving my in-laws, and focusing solely on being a good wife. I rarely asked about what he did outside, who he met, or what he encountered. I only knew he was a fierce general on the battlefield, with brilliant military achievements and deep trust from the emperor, but I had no idea how many enemies he had made or grudges he had incurred behind the scenes. Looking back now, I really lived my past life in a fog. General Zhu, whose voice snapped me out of my thoughts. He strode in quickly, urgency written on his face. General, I've uncovered a piece of information. Speak. Last night, after the 5 personal guards sent by Miss Du settled in, I secretly had someone watch them all night. Zhu said, lowering his voice. The others behaved themselves, but that one named He Shun sneaked out of the courtyard in the middle of the night and spent half an hour in the back garden before returning. My eyes sharpened. The back garden? Yes, Zhu said. I sent someone to check the back garden but found nothing unusual. However, when He Shun left, he was carrying a cloth bundle the size of a palm. A cloth bundle, yes. He tucked it into his chest, went back to sleep, and didn't come out again. Alarm bells rang in my heart. Du Ruoqing sent me a person, claiming it was for my own good, but that person snuck out in the middle of the night and brought back a cloth bundle of unknown origin. This hardly looks like a goodwill gesture. He Shun is the most unremarkable of those 5, short in stature, with a simple, honest face. Zhu added, but I always felt there's more to him than meets the eye. You don't need to tail him anymore, I said. Zhu froze. General, I want you to act like you know nothing. Let him do as he pleases, I said. I want to see what Du Ruoqing is really up to. But General, what if he tries to harm you? He won't. I cut him off, at least not now. Du Ruoqing isn't stupid. If one of her people made a move on me the moment they stepped through the door, she'd be implicated too. She's waiting for the right moment, a moment to drag me down all at once. Zhu opened his mouth, then finally nodded. Understood. Also, dig into Du Ruoqing's background, I said. Find out exactly what her relationship with Zhao Yang is, and what she was doing down south before she came to the capital. Yes. After Zhu withdrew, I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. This second chance at life didn't make me omniscient. On the contrary, so many things had changed, catching me off guard, forcing me to re-evaluate everyone and everything. I walked to the desk, picked up the brush, dipped it in ink, and wrote a few names on the paper. Zhao Yang, Chu Linlang, Du Ruoqing, Song Yang. Song Yang was my deputy general. In my past life, after I died in battle, it was he who collected my body and led the remnants back to the capital. Later, when Zhao Yang failed to repel the enemy, he fought to his death as well. This time, I wouldn't let Song Yang die. I set down the brush and stared at the 4 names on the paper, a plan slowly taking shape in my mind. That afternoon, I changed into a light riding outfit and headed out with Zhu. I was going to the military camp west of the city. Although the Zhenbei army had already been handed over to the Ministry of War, my old troops were still there, 3,000 men stationed at the drill grounds west of the city. These men had fought and bled with me for 3 years. Now that I was back, I had to go see them. As soon as I reached the camp gate, I spotted a familiar figure standing by a wooden post, sparring with a few soldiers. Song Yang, hearing my voice, he spun around, his face lighting up with a delighted grin. General, what brings you here? Song Yang was young, barely over 20, with a baby face and dimples when he smiled, but in battle, he was like a raging tiger, charging headfirst into the fray without hesitation. In my past life, he was the most formidable fighter under my command. I came to see the brothers, I said, patting his shoulder. How are you settling in the capital? Not well, Song Yang chuckled. This place is full of pavilions and towers. You have to tiptoe everywhere. I'd rather be on the frontier. I smiled. The frontier is good, but someone has to guard it. You'll stay in the capital for a while. Once the court issues new orders, you might be heading back. Then I'd rather go back to the frontier, Song Yang said. The capital has too many people and too many schemes. It's exhausting. His words were blunt, but not without truth. I looked around the camp. Seeing me, the soldiers gathered around, some grinning and calling out "General," others stiffly saluting. I acknowledged each one, chatting with a few veterans, asking if they lacked anything or had been mistreated, reporting, "General, no," a burly, bearded man boomed. "We're well fed and well clothed. We're doing great. Good to hear," I said after talking with the soldiers for a while. I took Song Yang outside the camp and stopped in the nearby woods. "Song Yang, I have something to ask you." "Go ahead, General. Has Zhao Yang come looking for you since he returned to the capital?" Song Yang paused, then shook his head. "No, General Zhao hasn't set foot in the Zhenbei army camp since the day he returned." I nodded, unsurprised. It was the same in my past life. Zhao Yang came back to the capital and acted as if the Zhenbei army no longer existed, without even a word of explanation. "One more thing," I lowered my voice. "You have good ears in the capital. Have you heard anything about the fire at the Zhao residence?" "Yes." Song Yang's expression turned serious. "I heard about it. Last night, a fire broke out in the Zhao mansion, burning down most of the backyard. Luckily, you and General Zhao put it out in time." "That's not what I mean," I said. "I'm asking if you've heard anything suspicious about that fire." Song Yang frowned, thinking for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. "General, I did hear something, but I'm not sure if it's true." "What is it?" "I have a brother who works as a clerk at a tavern in the eastern part of the city," Song Yang said. "He told me that last night, a man in black came in and bought 2 jugs of strong liquor. He also asked the shopkeeper if they had any tung oil for sale. The shopkeeper said no, and the man left." "Tung oil, again. Tung oil." My heart skipped a beat. "Does your brother remember what that man looked like?" "He does," said he was tall and thin, with a scar on his face, looked pretty fierce. Song Yang replied, "But I didn't think much of it. After all, the capital has all sorts of people, tall and thin, with a scar on his face that didn't match the shadowy figure Shen Fu had described, a small, slender build. Could it be that there was more than one arsonist? I mulled it over silently, but kept my suspicions to myself. Song Yang was reliable, but some things were better left unknown to keep him out of harm's way. "Song Yang, keep an eye on this man for me, but be careful, don't tip him off." "Yes, General," Song Yang replied, then asked, "General, are you looking into the Zhao mansion fire because—" "Just curious," I said with a smile, patting him on the shoulder. "All right, you head back now. I should be going too. Take care, General." I mounted my horse, with Juhu following behind, and we rode toward the Shen mansion. By the time I returned home, it was already dusk. As I stepped through the gate, I saw a man in a blue robe standing in the courtyard, his back to me, hands clasped behind him. I froze for a moment, then recognized him, Physician Cheng. The man turned around. It was indeed Cheng Yuji, a physician from the Imperial Medical Academy. He wasn't old, just over 30, with long, sharp eyebrows and eyes as clear as water. In my past life, I had little interaction with him, only knowing he was one of the best physicians in the academy, especially skilled in gold needle acupuncture. "Greetings, General Shen," Cheng Yuji said, bowing to me. "I have been sent by the Empress Dowager to examine your injuries." The Empress Dowager. I was taken aback. In my past life, the Empress Dowager had never shown any concern for my wounds. Why would she suddenly send a physician now? "Thank you for coming all this way, Physician Cheng. Please, come in," I said, gesturing for him to enter the main hall. After sitting down, Cheng Yuji took out a pulse pillow and motioned for me to place my hand on it. I did as instructed. He placed 3 fingers on my pulse, concentrated for a while, then withdrew his hand with a look of surprise. "General, there seems to be an unusual force of blood and energy within your body," he said solemnly. "An ordinary person with such an injury would need at least half a month in bed before getting up. Yet you, in just 2 days, are already moving as if nothing happened. That is truly rare. My heart tightened. The force of blood and energy was an internal breathing technique I had honed at the border, capable of unlocking my body's potential and speeding up recovery. But no one knew about this except me and my late master. You flatter me, Physician Cheng, I said, keeping my expression steady. I just have a strong constitution, nothing special. Cheng Yuji gave me a long, searching look but didn't press further. Instead, he took a porcelain bottle from his medical case and handed it to me. This is the jade face pill bestowed by the Empress Dowager. It works wonders for sword wounds, he said. Take 1 pill daily for 7 days, and you will fully recover. Thank you for the Empress Dowager's grace, and thank you, Physician Cheng, I said. Taking the bottle with a sincere expression of gratitude, Cheng Yuji stood up and bowed to me. Again, since the general is well, I shall take my leave. Allow me to see you out. I walked him to the door, watched him board his carriage, and disappear at the end of the alley. The smile on my face gradually faded. The Empress Dowager sending a physician to treat my wounds. On the surface, it seemed like a favor. But what lay beneath in my past life? The Empress Dowager had held Zhao Yang in high regard but had always been indifferent to me. Now that I had been reborn, why was she suddenly showing me kindness? Had she discovered something, or had Zhao Yang said something in the palace? I turned and walked back into the courtyard, my mind churning with doubts. In this life, everyone in the capital seemed far more complicated than they appeared. After nightfall, the Shen mansion grew quiet. I sat alone in the study, the flame in the lamp flickering, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Several letters were spread out before me, urgent dispatches I had sent from the border, detailing the current state of the remaining Zhenbei army and the situation along the northern frontier. In my past life, the northern border should have been relatively calm at this time, with only sporadic bandit raids. But this letter mentioned unusual activity. An unidentified cavalry unit had been frequently moving beyond the pass, as if scouting our border defenses. A heavy weight settled in my chest. If war broke out in the north, the court would have to send reinforcements. But the Zhenbei army had just been drastically reduced in size. If fighting truly erupted, we wouldn't have enough troops. As I was deep in thought, I suddenly heard a faint noise from outside the window. Something scraped against the tiles. I snapped to alertness, my fingertips pressing against the dagger hidden beneath the table as my gaze fixed on the window lattice. Who's there? No answer came from outside, only the night wind howling, rustling the window paper with a dry, brittle sound. I rose and crept to the window. Shoving it open abruptly, the window revealed no one, just the old locust tree in the courtyard, casting a dappled shadow under the moonlight. I squinted, sweeping my eyes along the base of the wall, and suddenly spotted a small cloth bundle in the corner of the courtyard wall. I leaped out the window, bent down to pick it up, and opened it. Inside was a piece of black cloth, caked with ash, carrying a faint scent of tung oil. My heart jolted. Tung oil, ash, black cloth. This was clearly arson material. Who had placed this in my courtyard? I jerked my head up, looking at the tiles on the wall. Under the moonlight, 2 shallow footprints marked the tiles, as if someone had just stepped there. Someone had infiltrated the Shen residence, deliberately leaving this bundle in my courtyard. What was he trying to tell me, or was he trying to frame me? I clenched the bundle, my mind racing. The Zhao residence fire had happened last midnight. If someone had set it intentionally, traces would remain. If the arsonist were caught, anything stained with tung oil on him would be damning evidence. But now, that evidence was in my courtyard. If I hadn't discovered it, and tomorrow morning someone searched the estate, finding this bundle in my yard, I'd become the prime suspect for arson. A fine scheme. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I let out a cold laugh, tucked the bundle away, and turned back into the house. Juhu walked in just then, carrying a midnight snack. General, you haven't rested yet. Juhu, tighten security tonight, I said. Someone's infiltrated and planted something in my yard. Juhu's face stiffened. What? I handed him the bundle, the arson material from the Zhao fire, cloth soaked in tung oil. Someone's trying to frame me. Juhu took the bundle, sniffed it, his face turning ashen. General, I failed in my duty. I didn't notice the intrusion. It's not your fault, I said. That person's martial skills are no joke. and he knows the Shan residence layout well. Like he's scouted it before. I paused, then added, go arrange it, double the night patrols tonight, and station someone at every intersection. Let's see if he dares to come again. Yes, sir. After Juhu left, I sat in my chair, tapping my fingers lightly on the table. Who sent that infiltrator tonight? Du Ruoqing, Zhao Yang, or someone else, but whoever it was, one thing was certain. Their target was to pin the arson charge on me. In my past life, I might have panicked, been at a loss, but in this life, I, Shan Zhaoning, was no longer the weak woman to be butchered. I picked up the bundle on the table and examined it closely. The cloth was cut from ordinary linen, covered in ash, with a strong tung oil smell. A piece like this, once tested at the capital's prefectural office, could confirm if it matched the tung oil found at the Zhao fire scene, but since that person could plant it in my yard, he must also have a way to get the capital's prefects to search the residence. So I'd play along. The next morning, I changed into my court robes, ready to enter the palace for an audience. I'd thought it over all night. Rather than wait to be trapped, I'd strike first. I'd meet the emperor, report the Northern Frontier Army's situation and the border unrest, and bring last night's bundle along. If someone tried to use it to frame me, I'd turn it into my weapon for counterattack. Just as I reached the gate, a lavish carriage stopped before the Shan residence. The curtain lifted, revealing a delicate face. Du Ruoqing today. She wore a light purple ruchuan, a white jade butterfly hairpin in her bun, making her look gentle and charming. She saw me, paused slightly, then flashed a warm smile. Sister Shan, you're going out, Miss Du, I replied flatly. So early? Is there something? Du Ruoqing descended the carriage, walked to me, and pulled out an exquisite brocade box from her sleeve, offering it with both hands. Sister Shan, this is snow lotus I brought back from the south. It's said to be excellent. 4 sword wounds. Since you were injured yesterday, I specially brought it for you. I glanced at the box but didn't take it. Miss Du, I appreciate your kindness, I said, but I'm the Northern Frontier General. I have military doctors to treat me. I won't trouble you. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Du Ruoqing's face, but she quickly adjusted her expression, offering a gentle smile. Sister Shan, why be so distant? I heard that you and Brother Yang have parted ways, and my heart aches for you. A woman like you, managing a general's estate all alone, it must be so inconvenient. If there's anything you need help with, just tell me. Her words were impeccably smooth, a facade of concern, yet laced with an undertone of you're on your own now, and only I can help you. I raised an eyebrow, saying nothing. In my past life, I'd been burned too many times. I'd learned one truth long ago. Anyone who's kind to you for no reason either has an ulterior motive or a hidden agenda. Miss Du, it's getting cold. You should head back and rest early, I said. I still have official business, so I can't keep you company. With that, I stepped straight onto the carriage and ordered the driver to the palace. The carriage rumbled forward. Through the gap in the curtain, I saw Du Ruoqing standing at the entrance of the Shan residence, her smile fading bit by bit, replaced by a chilling expression I'd never seen before. A shiver ran through me. She really wasn't as gentle and harmless as she appeared. When the carriage reached the palace gates, I presented my token and stated my purpose. The guards went in to announce me, and soon, a eunuch came out to escort me inside. In the imperial study, Emperor Li Chengxian sat behind his dragon desk, reviewing memorials. He was in his early 40s, with a gaunt face but piercing eyes, and 3 wisps of a long beard that gave him an air of ethereal elegance. Your subject, Zhenbei General Shan Zhaoning, pays respects to your majesty. I knelt and bowed. Rise. Li Chengxian set down his brush and looked at me. General Shan, you only returned to the capital yesterday, yet you come to see me today. Is there something urgent? Your majesty, I do have an important matter to report. I presented the secret letter I'd received the night before. The dispatch from the border says there have been unusual cavalry movements in the northern frontier recently, likely forces outside our dynasty probing our defenses. I believe this cannot be ignored. Li Chengxian took the letter, read it carefully, and frowned. I've always had scouts patrolling the northern frontier. How come I've never heard of such movements? Your majesty, the scouts are mostly stationed within the passes, Matters beyond the border are hard to detect without specific reconnaissance, I said. I believe this is a grave concern, and I urge your Majesty to instruct the Ministry of War to strengthen border vigilance. Li Chengxian pondered for a moment, then nodded. General Shen, you make a valid point. I'll have the Ministry of War handle this. Thank you, Your Majesty. I paused, then pulled the cloth bundle from my sleeve. There's one more thing I'd like Your Majesty to see. What is this? Last night, someone infiltrated my residence and left this in my courtyard, I said. I smelled it. It has the scent of tung oil and traces of ash. I suspect this bundle is connected to the fire at the Zhao residence. Li Chengshuan's expression darkened. He took the bundle and placed it on the desk, his gaze sharp. General Shen, are you saying the fire at the Zhao residence wasn't an accident? I dare not jump to conclusions, I said, but I believe there's something suspicious about it. If it were truly an accidental fire, why would someone hide a tung oil-soaked bundle in my courtyard? What's their motive? To divert attention, or to frame me? Li Chengxian was silent for a moment, then suddenly looked up at me, his eyes deep and probing. General Shen, do you know that Zhao Yang also submitted a memorial last night, claiming the fire was likely arson and requesting a full investigation? My heart stirred. Zhao Yang had filed a report too, and what did Your Majesty say? I've already ordered the capital's magistrate to reinvestigate. Li Chengxian said, if it's arson, I won't show leniency. I lowered my gaze, my mind racing. If Zhao Yang also suspected arson, it meant we were on the same page, that fire was no simple accident. But who was the one who left that bundle in my courtyard? Were they trying to harm me, or help me? If they wanted to harm me, they'd have placed it somewhere easier to find, or directly framed me. Instead, they put it under my window, as if deliberately making sure I'd discover it. It was too strange. General Shen, Li Chengshuan's voice cut through my thoughts. Don't spread this matter for now. Wait until the magistrate's investigation is complete before drawing conclusions. I understand. If there's nothing else, you may take your leave. Your subject takes leave. I exited the study and walked down the long palace corridor, my heart far from light. This trip hadn't uncovered who was behind the schemes, but at least it alerted the Emperor to the northern frontiers movements. As long as the Ministry of War tightened border defenses, the danger there could be temporarily eased. As for that cloth bundle, since I had already handed it over to the Emperor, it meant I held the initiative in my hands. If anyone tried to use this matter to harm me, the Emperor would naturally stand by my side. By the time I returned to the Shen residence, it was already noon. The moment I stepped through the door, I saw Shen Fu rushing over with a face full of anxiety. Miss, something terrible has happened. What's wrong? He Shun is missing. Shen Fu lowered his voice. This morning, Zhu Hu went to call He Shun for breakfast and found his room completely empty. The bedding was folded neatly, as if it had never been slept in, and his bundle is gone too. My heart sank. Someone had sneaked into the Shen residence last night, and now He Shun had disappeared. Could the person who broke in last night have been He Shun himself? Uncle Fu, go fetch Zhu Hu for me, I said. Zhu Hu arrived quickly, a look of guilt on his face. General, I failed in my duty. I couldn't keep an eye on He Shun. It's not your fault, I said. He Shun is one of Du Ruoqing's people. If he really wanted to run, no one could stop him. Did he leave anything behind before he left? Zhu Hu thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, General, I checked his room thoroughly. It was spotless, nothing left behind. I pondered for a while, then suddenly smiled. General, what are you smiling about? Zhu Hu asked, puzzled. Zhu Hu, have you ever wondered why He Shun ran? I said. Zhu Hu was taken aback. Because he has a guilty conscience. Exactly, I said. He has a guilty conscience. But why? Because he did something he shouldn't have. What did he do? Did he sneak into my courtyard, plant that cloth bundle, or something else? General, you mean, Du Ruoqing gave me 5 people, and one of them was He Shun. He Shun slipped out in the middle of the night and brought back a cloth bundle. That bundle was stained with tung oil, linking it to the fire at the Zhao residence. And then, He Shun ran away while I was at the palace meeting the Emperor. I said, word by word, tell me, if I went to the Jingzhou prefecture right now and accused Du Ruoqing of arson and framing me, what would the magistrate decide? Juhu's eyes lit up with realization. General, you mean to turn the tables? No, it's not the right time yet, I said. He Shun has run away, so there's no evidence left, even if I accuse Du Ruoqing. She can just deny it and claim I staged the whole thing myself. The Jingzhou prefecture won't find solid proof, and in the end, I'll be the one who suffers. Juhu grew anxious. Then what do we do? Don't rush, I said. Since He Shun has run off, that's one less hidden danger in the Shun residence. The farther he runs, the better it is for me. As for Du Ruoqing, she gave me people and then let one of them escape. That alone is enough to give others something to talk about. I picked up the teacup on the table, took a sip, and had already formed a plan in my mind. Juhu, find a way to locate He Shun, but do it discreetly. Don't alert him, I said. Once you find him, don't touch him. First, see who he goes to meet. Yes, General. After Juhu withdrew, I sat alone in the main hall, gazing at the bright sunlight streaming through the window. My heart, however, churned like a stormy sea in this life. Now that I had been reborn, I would never let anyone control me again, whether it was Du Ruoqing, Zhao Yang, or those lurking in the shadows with their greedy eyes. I would show none of them mercy. I sat in the main hall for half an hour, weighing the current situation over and over in my mind. Among the 5 people Du Ruoqing had sent, He Shun was the most inconspicuous. He was usually quiet and diligent, and I had never suspected him. Yet, of all people, he had disappeared at this critical moment. If this was just a coincidence, I refused to believe it, but the question was, how had He Shun managed to sneak into my courtyard? The Shun residence might not be an impenetrable fortress, but there were night patrols. How could a servant who had been sent here evade everyone's notice and silently place that cloth bundle under my window unless he had an accomplice inside the residence? The thought sent a chill down my spine. Among the 5 people Du Ruoqing had sent, besides He Shun, there were 4 others. Could any of them be her people too? I immediately called for Shun Fu. Uncle Fu, have any of the people Du Ruoqing sent been acting strangely lately? Shun Fu thought for a moment, then said, nothing particularly unusual. They've all been well behaved and never wander off. But, what? But yesterday evening, a maid named Xiao Lan said she wanted to go to the backyard to pick some flowers for a vase. It was almost dark, and I thought it was inappropriate, so I didn't let her go. Shun Fu said, now that I think about it, why would a maid insist on picking flowers when it's almost dark? I had a hunch. Uncle Fu, have someone keep a close watch on those 4, especially Xiao Lan. Don't alert them, just observe her daily movements. Yes, miss. After Shun Fu withdrew, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. This rebirth gave me 10 more years of memories than anyone else, but precisely because of these extra memories, I understood more clearly just how deep the waters ran in the capital. In my past life, Du Ruoqing toyed with me like a puppet, and I only learned the truth moments before my death. In this life, I won't let her succeed, but I knew even better. Du Ruoqing was nothing more than a pawn. The real mastermind behind the scenes was the one who made Zhao Yang fall for someone else, the one who had Du Ruoqing frame me in my past life. I died too fast to uncover who that person was. In this life, I will drag them into the light. By evening, Juhu returned. General, I found He Shun, Juhu said in a low voice. He left the city, heading south. I had men tail him discreetly, and they tracked him to a manor 30 li south of the city. A manor? I frowned. Whose manor? I checked. The manor is registered under the name of Wang Chongwen, the Vice Minister of Revenue. Wang Chongwen. My heart sank. Wang Chongwen was Du Ruoqing's uncle. If He Shun went to his manor, it confirmed that He Shun was one of Du Ruoqing's people. But that raised another question. Why did Du Ruoqing send someone to place a tung oil-soaked cloth bundle in my courtyard? If she wanted to harm me, she could have simply tossed the bundle in my yard and had someone report it to the capital magistrate. But she didn't. Instead, she let me discover it, and I used it to enter the palace. That didn't add up. Unless that bundle wasn't meant to frame me at all. A thought struck me. In my past life, not long after the Zhao Mansion fire, the capital magistrate uncovered a truth that I had ordered the arson out of jealousy over Zhao Yang marrying Du Ruoqing. At the time, I couldn't defend myself. The emperor reprimanded me. docked 3 years of my salary, and demoted me, though it was later cleared up as a misunderstanding. Those 3 years of humiliation still haunt me now that I think about it. That fire was aimed at me from the start, but in this life, he placed the bundle in my yard without letting anyone find out. If I hadn't climbed out the window myself, I wouldn't have noticed anything under it. That was strange. If Du Ruoqing wanted to harm me, she should have made sure more people discovered the bundle. Instead, she hid it so well, as if she didn't want anyone to find it. Unless that bundle wasn't meant to frame me at all, what was it for? A possibility crossed my mind. The bundle was meant to warn me. Did Du Ruoqing want me to know that the Zhao Mansion fire was connected to the unrest in the northern frontier? The moment this thought surfaced, even I found it absurd. Du Ruoqing was my sworn enemy. Why would she help me? But then again, though Du Ruoqing had harmed me in my past life, she hadn't exactly lived well either. After Zhao Yang married her, he never truly favored her, and her father, Minister Du, was implicated in the court upheaval of my past life, demoted and exiled. If Du Ruoqing had her own grievances, it wasn't entirely impossible, but no matter what, I wouldn't trust her easily. Ju Hu, keep watching that manor, report immediately if anything changes. Yes, General. After Ju Hu left, I sat alone in the study, flipping through the military reports from the northern frontier sent by the Ministry of War. The reports said there had indeed been unrest in the north recently, but on a small scale, just minor cavalry raids. The Ministry of War had already sent scouts, expecting news in about half a month, that matched the intelligence I had sent back, but I knew in my heart that the unrest in the north was far from minor cavalry raids. In my past life, the northern front collapsed completely. Half a year later, the enemy broke through, capturing 3 cities in a row. The court sent Zhao Yang to suppress the rebellion, but he suffered a crushing defeat. In the end, I led the remnants of my troops, fighting desperately to hold the last city. That battle left me gravely wounded. I barely survived in this life. I will not let history repeat itself. The next morning, I went to the capital magistrate's office. The magistrate, Chen, was an old official past 50, known for being fair, but he was getting on in years and slow in handling matters. If the Zhao Mansion fire was left to him, it would take half a year to investigate. General Shen, Magistrate Chen rose and bowed when he saw me. What brings you here today, Magistrate Chen? No need for formalities, I said. I came to ask about the Zhao Mansion fire. How is the investigation going? Magistrate Chen sighed. To be honest, General, this case is tricky. On the day of the fire, no one in the mansion reported seeing anyone suspicious. I had men check the surrounding streets, but found no leads. For now, we can only wait for new evidence to surface. I nodded, taking a piece of paper from my sleeve and handing it over. Lord Chen, I have a lead here that might be of help. Chen Jingzhao took the paper and glanced at it, his expression shifting. General, this is a carriage that appeared near the Zhao residence on the day of the fire. I said, half an hour before the blaze, it was parked by the back gate. After the fire broke out, it hurriedly left. I suspect the people inside were connected to the arson. Chen Jingzhao studied the description on the paper carefully, his brows furrowed. How does the general know about this carriage? There's someone in my household who happened to pass by the Zhao residence that night and saw it. I said, he's an honest man and wouldn't lie. Chen Jingzhao pondered for a moment, then said, I'll have my men look into the lead the general has provided. If this carriage is indeed suspicious, I'll get to the bottom of it. Then I thank Lord Chen for his trouble, I said. However, I ask that you keep this matter confidential and not spread it around. Rest assured, General, I understand. Once outside the Jingzhou Prefecture, I let out a long sigh. The origin of the carriage described on that paper was, of course, fabricated by me, but the carriage itself did exist in my past life. After the Zhao residence fire, someone mentioned seeing a carriage parked by the back gate. No one paid it any mind at the time, and it was eventually forgotten, but I remembered it clearly. The owner of that carriage was Wang Chongwen, the Vice Minister of Revenue, Du Ruoqing's uncle. If he had gone to Wang Chongwen's estate, and Wang Chongwen's carriage had appeared at the scene of the Zhao fire, then everything fell into place. Du Ruoqing and Wang Chongwen had set the trap, lit the fire, and framed me for it. As for that cloth bundle, it was probably meant to make me think something was off and investigate on my own. That way, I'd be dragged into the mess, unable to defend myself. Du Ruoqing's move was undeniably clever, but she miscalculated one thing: I was no longer the Shun Zhaoning from my past life, the one who was easy prey. 3 days later, at the morning court, Li Chengxian sat on the dragon throne, his expression calm. The court officials stood in 2 rows, each harboring their own thoughts. The main agenda of today's court session was the military report from the northern frontier and the case of the Zhao residence fire. The Minister of War stepped forward first. Your Majesty, I have received a report from the northern frontier. There are indeed unusual movements at the border. According to scout intelligence, a large group of cavalry has appeared beyond the pass, seemingly from the west. The west, Li Chengxian frowned. Are they troops from Shiliang, Your Majesty? It has not yet been confirmed, the Minister of War said, that cavalry is moving covertly, and our scouts dare not approach too closely. However, based on observations, their equipment is sophisticated, not like ordinary bandits. Li Chengxian was silent for a moment, then said, "Issue my decree, order the northern garrison to heighten vigilance. If there are any movements, report immediately. Also, instruct the Ministry of War to dispatch 5,000 elite troops to reinforce the northern frontier. I obey Your Majesty's command." At this point, Chen Jingzhao also stepped forward. Your Majesty, I have something to report. Speak. I have been investigating the Zhao residence fire by Your Majesty's order, and I have made progress, Chen Jingzhao said. According to my findings, on the day of the fire, a suspicious carriage was parked near the back gate of the Zhao residence. Following the trail, I discovered that the carriage belongs to Wang Chongwen, the Vice Minister of Revenue. At these words, the court erupted in murmurs. Wang Chongwen's face turned pale, and he hurriedly stepped forward. Your Majesty, I am wronged. That carriage of mine did pass by the Zhao residence that day, but I absolutely did not commit arson. I have no grudge against the Zhao family. Why would I set a fire? Lord Wang need not rush to defend himself, Chen Jingzhao said calmly. I also found that after the Zhao residence fire, that carriage went to an estate 30 li south of the city. That estate is registered under Lord Wang's name. Wang Chongwen's face grew even more ashen. That estate is indeed mine, but I did not go there that day. Lord Wang may not have gone, but that doesn't mean no one else did. Chen Jingzhao said, I discovered that after the carriage entered the estate, a person got out. That person went into the estate and never came out. I sent men to investigate and found that the person's name is He Shun, who previously served in General Shun's household. All eyes turned to me. I stepped forward calmly, cupping my hands. Your Majesty, I did indeed take in a man named He Shun, sent by Lord Du's household. However, He Shun disappeared the day after the Zhao residence fire. I was wondering where he had gone. Li Chengxuan's gaze was sharp. General Shun, are you saying that He Shun is from Lord Du's household? Yes, Your Majesty, I said. Lord Du said He Shun was capable and gifted him to me. Thinking it was a kind gesture from Lord Du, I accepted. Little did I know that He Shun would do such a thing. This is my oversight, and I beg Your Majesty to punish me. Li Chengxian let out a cold snort, turning to look at Minister Du. Minister Du, what do you have to say for yourself? Minister Du's face turned ashen, and he quickly knelt down. Your Majesty, I am wronged. I sent He Shun to General Shun out of goodwill, with no ulterior motives. As for what He Shun did, I know nothing about it. Nothing about it, Li Chengxian sneered. Your niece married Zhao Yang, your carriage appeared at the scene of the Zhao mansion fire, and the servant you sent turned up in General Shun's courtyard. Now you tell me you know nothing. Sweat beaded on Minister Du's forehead. Your Majesty, please see clearly. I truly know nothing. Enough. Li Chengxian waved his hand. I have my own judgment on this matter. Chen Jingzhao, continue your investigation, and make sure to get to the bottom of it. Your servant obeys. After the morning court session ended, I walked out of the palace, but my heart was far from light. Today's battle had put Wang Chongwen and Minister Du on the defensive, but the real mastermind behind the scenes had yet to surface. Wang Chongwen was nothing but a pawn, and Minister Du was just a small fish. The real big fish was still lurking in deep waters back at the Shen residence, Ju Hu was already waiting for me. General, I have news. Ju Hu lowered his voice. Shen stayed in the village for a day and a night, then came out last night. He went to a secluded house in the western part of the city and stayed there for half an hour before leaving. A house in the western part of the city. I frowned. Whose house is it? I checked. General, that house is under the name of the Prince Ning's mansion. The Prince Ning's mansion. My heart sank. Prince Ning was the emperor's younger brother. He had once vied for the throne, failed, and was demoted to commoner status. But he still held some influence and had never given up in my past life. Prince Ning raised an army to rebel a year later and nearly succeeded. It was only after I led the troops to suppress him that the kingdom was saved. Could it be that the unrest in the northern frontier, the fire at the Zhao mansion, and Shen's disappearance were all connected to Prince Ning? Ju Hu, keep an eye on that house. If anything unusual happens, report to me immediately. Yes, General. After Ju Hu left, I sat alone in the study, lost in thought. If Prince Ning was involved in this, then everything made sense. To seize the throne, Prince Ning would first have to eliminate Zhao Yang and me. Zhao Yang was the emperor's right-hand man, and I was the general who led the troops. If something happened to both of us, the emperor would lose two key allies, giving Prince Ning a better chance. As for Du Ruoqing, she was probably Prince Ning's agent. She married into the Zhao mansion not to become the lady of the house, but to keep an eye on Zhao Yang. That cloth bundle was likely deliberately placed in my courtyard by her. She wanted me to suspect that the Zhao mansion fire was suspicious and investigate on my own. That way, I would become entangled in the Zhao mansion fire case, and once the Jingzhou prefecture uncovered something, I would be the prime suspect. But Du Ruoqing miscalculated one thing. I was smarter than she thought. Not only did I not fall for the trap, but I handed the cloth bundle to the emperor and used the opportunity to inform him of the unrest in the northern frontier. Now, Prince Ning's plan was bound to suffer a major setback. 3 days later, the emperor issued a decree, ordering me to lead troops to the northern frontier to reinforce the border defenses. The moment I received the imperial decree, my heart was a mix of emotions. The northern frontier, the place where I had nearly died in my past life. In this life, I was going there again, but this time, I would not repeat the same mistakes. On the night before my departure, I went to the Zhao mansion. Zhao Yang already knew about my deployment to the northern frontier. When he saw me, he was silent for a long time. Zhaoning, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Take care on the journey. I looked at him, but my heart was completely calm. Once, I thought he was my destined partner, willing to give everything for him, but after enduring the pain of my past life, I saw through it all in this one. Minister Zhao, rest assured, I will take care of myself, I said. The northern frontier is a place I've been to many times. I know it well. I know. Zhao Yang looked at me, hesitating. Zhaoning, Minister Zhao, if you have something to say, just say it directly. Zhao Yang was silent for a moment, then said, that fire was set by Du Ruoqing. I was slightly taken aback, not expecting him to bring it up voluntarily. How do you know? I asked. She told me herself. Zhao Yang smiled bitterly. She said the fire was meant to eliminate you. As for the reason, she didn't say. I looked at him and suddenly found it a bit amusing. Minister Zhao, your wife wants to eliminate me, and you're telling me this, I said. Are you hoping I'll forgive you? Or that I'll be grateful to you? Neither, Zhao Yang said. I just don't want you to die without knowing why. Then rest assured, I won't die. I turned my back to him. In this life, I won't let anyone kill me. With that, I walked away without looking back. The next morning, I led 5,000 elite soldiers and set out on the road to the northern frontier. As I left the city, I turned back to glance at the capital. That bustling metropolis hid countless schemes and conspiracies. This time, I had no idea when I would return, but deep down, I knew that when I came back, everything would be different. Whether it was Prince Ning, Du Ruoqing, or those lurking in the shadows, I would drag them out one by one. The wind and sand stung my face as I tightened my grip on the reins and spurred my horse forward. Behind me, the footsteps of 5,000 soldiers echoed, solid and powerful. Ahead lay the vast northern frontier, that was my battlefield, and my destination. A month later, news of a great victory in the northern frontier arrived. I returned to the capital, dusty and weary, bearing the triumphant report of repelling the Western Liang army. The city welcomed me with cheers and applause, but I knew deep down that the real battle had only just begun. Prince Ning had already set his plans in motion, and undercurrents surged through the capital. What I needed to do was steady the situation before the storm hit. In this life, I would no longer let anyone control my fate. I, Shen Zhaoning, would take charge of my own destiny. The end.